What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 585 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, February 11th, 2025. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Enjoyed the Super Bowl a couple days ago. We're going to be talking about that on WrestleRant Radio this Thursday, myself and Mr. Marceau, breaking down Eagles going over the Chiefs. So stay tuned for that on Thursday. If you got a question about that here today on the chat, be sure to drop it in the chat. We'll discuss it here on the show. But yeah, those are the streams this week, unless anything gets changed. I think obviously today we're going live, answering your questions from the document. Also, if you have any questions live while we're on the air, here for #AskGSM. WrestleRant Radio on Thursday. We're going to be going live a little bit earlier on Thursday, around 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you're around on Thursday morning, join us for all the discussion in the world of wrestling, talking the Super Bowl and all the latest in WWE. Also, NXT Vengeance Day predictions coming up on Thursday morning as well. And Saturday morning, the usual SmackDown review, breaking down SmackDown from Friday. This past Saturday, we didn't really do a full-on SmackDown review. I just kind of talked about the WWE releases. We're going to go more in-depth with that on Thursday's WrestleRant Radio with myself and Mr. Marceau. So just an update on that front. But if you are tuning in live or after the fact, obviously if you are tuning in live, you can send in a question in the chat. I'll get to it at some point. If you are watching after the fact, you can send in a question to the show every single week by dropping a question in the comments, tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. Any of those ways you could use to send in your question to the show, and I'll answer it here on the show every single Tuesday on #AskGSM. So I think that's about everything. If you guys are tuning in live, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like the video. All that stuff is greatly appreciated, and it does help boost, the algorithm or whatever the fuck YouTube uses to recommend these videos to other people. So be sure to like the video and subscribe as well, and hit that bell button to be notified every single time we go live. You'll be notified every time we go live, and also every time a new video goes up. Like yesterday, we had a WrestleRant Ranks video go live right before Raw, talking the WWE stars who left for AEW and ranking those from best of the best to get in the bin. So check that out from yesterday if you haven't already. #GSM for GM videos, WWE 2K24 gameplay videos, interviews, WrestleRant Radio excerpts, and so much more. So if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified every time a video goes up and every single time we go live here on the channel. So I'll be answering the questions that were sent in ahead of time first. Let me pull up the chat here. All right, so if you're watching live or joining after the fact, be sure to join us. If you chat in, I will send in your question or answer your question at some point. But we'll start with the scheduled questions, starting with Micah Does It from YouTube. Their question was, if a Royal Rumble came down to MJF and Logan Paul as the final two, who do you think the fans would cheer? I love you, Micah, but that's a pretty simple answer, I think, to your question. It's got to be MJF. I mean, MJF, I know he's like a hated heel. He does a great job of generating heat. But if it came down to Logan Paul and MJF, especially if MJF made his WWE debut in the Royal Rumble, and I'm not saying he would or he will or whatever, I'm just saying theoretically, they would obviously cheer MJF. But even if MJF was already on the roster and Logan Paul was still there at that point, they would still cheer MJF. At least MJF is like cool to cheer. He can be a cool heel, and he does a great job of generating heat, even from the casuals. But, like, he would still, especially in front of a hardcore audience at a Royal Rumble, he would absolutely be cheered over a Logan Paul, who, say what you will about the guy, but does a great job of getting heat and also delivering in the ring when it matters most, including a last night's Raw in that match with Rey Mysterio, where I thought they had a banger to close that show in the Elimination Chamber qualifier. So the answer would absolutely be MJF. John Ritland joining us in the chat here. Thank you for joining us, Mr. John Ritland of Real Honestly. Check out his channel if you haven't already. Does great, movie reviews and stuff like that. So be sure to check him out on the. Let me just check my the back end of this for a second. Be sure to check out his channel if you haven't already. All right, I'm making sure this isn't messed up. All right, I think we're good to go here. But anyway, his question was, as for the question, or he's answering the question for the video, which we'll get to in a little bit. As for, like, the greatest wrestlers to never win a world championship, he's saying Owen for sure, Mr. Perfect, though we did win the AWA title in '87. Dustin Rhodes should have won a recognized world championship. And Daniel Malcolm, before we went live, said Mr. Perfect as well. Owen Hart and Roddy Piper come to mind as the greatest wrestlers to have never won a world championship off the top of his head. Mamadou, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, I apologize. I say that all the time, but I apologize if I got your name wrong. But he said, hey, Graham in the chat. Hey, my man, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well and having a great Tuesday so far. Jordan B from YouTube, their first question was, they asked Fernando joining us as well, saying, what's up, Fernando? Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you in the chat. Not much is up. We're just answering questions here, including this one. Jordan B asking, who would you say right now is the greatest wrestler that never won a world championship? Well, here's the question you guys came here for me to answer, I guess. He added on, of course, there are a lot of different answers, but for me, I'm going with William Regal. That is such a Graham-coded answer because you know that I think a lot of people are aware that William Regal is my favorite of all time. So I'm automatically going to love that answer and immediately going to accept that as well. I mean, there's a lot of great answers like you guys put in the chat. Mr. Perfect, Owen, absolutely. I think Owen honestly might be number one. Although he came close in 94 in WWE to beating Bret Hart for that WWE championship, he never ended up winning that WWE world title. And we're talking WWE here. And obviously you can include other promotions, AWA you mentioned, John, as far as Mr. Perfect, he won that championship in 87. Mr. Perfect wasn't on my immediate list. I wrote down 5. I wrote down 6 names here, and I omitted Mr. Perfect. But Mr. Perfect would be a good answer. Jake the Snake was one of my answers as well. Mamadou, you said Jake the Snake. Fernando said Mr. Perfect is my pick as the greatest wrestler to never win a world championship. So that seems to be the general consensus is Mr. Perfect. I'm not going to say William Regal. I think William Regal is one of the best technical wrestlers probably ever. Is he one of the greatest wrestlers to have not won a world championship? In ring-wise, probably, because I think William Regal might be better than a lot of these people that I'm about to mention in the ring. But as far as like overall package to have been a world champion that would have worked at that level long-term, I think Mr. Perfect would have worked at that level probably more than Regal would have, especially if Mr. Perfect had won a world championship in the 90s in WWE. So again, he was a former world champion in AWA, like John had mentioned earlier on. But we're talking WWE here specifically, like the championships that people will specifically remember. I think Mr. Perfect might be the best answer, but like I said, I did not write him down. Regal was a great answer. I think I would put him in that conversation of people that never won a world championship. Dustin Rhodes, I like that answer from John as well. Dustin Rhodes was never a world champion in WWE. Won every other championship, tag team champion, intercontinental champion, I think a hardcore champion as well, but never a WWE world champion. So he was never going to win a world championship with the Gold Dust gimmick, but as Dustin Rhodes, I feel like that could have worked. It was just never the right time for it, I think. If he was Dustin Rhodes, like what he's doing right now in AEW, not a 50-year-old Dustin Rhodes in WWE, I don't think that guy would win a world championship. But if he were this character 10, 15 years ago, like when Mark Henry was world champion, I think it could have worked. Mamadou also said Razor Ramon, he was over enough. Razor Ramon, Scott Hall was another one of my answers. So I'll give you my answers right now. William Regal, Mr. Perfect, you guys mentioned, that's a good one. Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon. Absolutely, if Diesel could have been a world champion in WWE, I think Scott Hall absolutely should have been a world champion at some point as well. In the mid-90s, you could have put the championship on him. I know he was a mainstay at the mid-card level with the Intercontinental Championship, a great Intercontinental Champion. But I feel like he also could have worked as a world champion as well. It just never really felt like right time, right place. And even in WCW, I don't think he ever won the WCW World Championship over there either. He was always his own worst enemy. The amount of fuck-ups he had and stuff like that. So, putting that stuff aside, could he have won a world championship at some point? It's possible. I'm not banking on it, but he could have won a world championship a little bit earlier on in his career for sure. John had said Scott Hall would be another, but he also got in his own way a lot, unfortunately. Yeah, exactly. That's what I just said, so I completely agree. And Millennial Noob had chatted in. Thank you for joining us. Millennial Noob, great to see you in the chat. He said, good morning, Graham. How are you doing today? What are your thoughts on Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Championship in 3 weeks on Raw? We'll get to that in a moment. I want to finish this question first, and I'll answer that in a second. Fernando saying, pulling the trigger on the Lex Express at SummerSlam versus Yokozuna was a missed opportunity. I agree, at SummerSlam 94. I don't know if Lex Luger would be in my top 5 of greatest wrestlers to have not won a world championship in WWE. I know he was a former WCW world champion very briefly. I think when he beat Hogan for the belt and lost it like a week later. So at least he won a world championship over there. A lot of these people never won a world championship at all. Was Roddy Piper ever the WCW World Heavyweight Champion? I don't think he was. I know he challenged for the championship and they gave him like a fake win, but he didn't actually win the belt. I think he won by countout or some shit. Roddy Piper, to me, has always been like the number one answer of greatest wrestlers to have not won a world championship. Jake Roberts is another great one. I think I would put him at the top of the list for greatest wrestlers to have never won a championship, period, in WWE. A former, not a former anything, not even a former tag team champion, a former intercontinental champion. Fernando and Mamadou both saying no, he was not. Yeah, no, okay, so Piper was never a former world champion in WCW. So I would put Piper on that list. Scott Hall, Jake Roberts, William Regal I mentioned. Jordan also mentioned him as well. Mr. Perfect you guys mentioned. John Retland said Piper got a few shots, won a non-title match at Starrcade 96. That's probably what I'm thinking of. Another wrestler that should have been a world champion is Owen Hart. Yes, we did mention Owen Hart already. He's probably among the top of that list. But let me ask you guys this, though. These are all wrestlers from 20, 25, 30 years ago. So when I was putting together this list of greatest wrestlers to have not won a world championship, I'm thinking, what is the modern day equivalent of Mamadou? You stole my fucking answer right from me. Sami Zayn would be a name as far as current people for me. You stole my answer from me. Greatest wrestlers currently to have not won a world championship. And they still could. Obviously, I think Sami Zayn hopefully at some point will be a world champion. I think the hope is still there. Ideally, beating Drew McIntyre, a man that never, he has yet to beat one-on-one. Sami Zayn, Fernando saying Roddy Piper, and Jake Roberts. He said Jack Roberts, but Jake Roberts were one of those guys who were so over that they didn't need a world championship. Correct, but it would have been nice if they were recognized as one. Ted DiBiase being another one as well, $1 Million Man. Not Ted DiBiase Jr., obviously. But modern-day picks, Sami Zayn for me, I feel like, is probably the greatest wrestler on the roster, or honestly, like one of the best talents that WWE's had in the last 10, 15 years that has not won a world championship. So Sami Zayn would be my pick. In this other pick, he's won world championships in pretty much every other promotion that he's been in except WWE. Samoa Joe. I think Samoa Joe should be on that list of modern-day talent that never won a world championship in WWE, but should have and deserve to. And God knows he got a million different shots. It's not like he was never in WWE. I guess Sting is another one, too. Sting obviously never won a world championship in WWE. Got an opportunity in his final match there in 2015. Lost. But obviously he was a multi-time world champion over in WCW, so it's kind of hard to consider him. But like I'm talking in WWE specifically in the last 10, 15 years, I would say Sami Zayn, who I think still could and will win one at some point. And we're not talking like the ECW championship either, by the way, like the WWE ECW version. Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe got a million shots against Brock Lesnar, Kofi Kingston, AJ Styles, among other people. Never won it once, and he absolutely fucking should have. Obviously a former Ring of Honor world champion, TNA world champion, AEW world champion, and I'm glad he got all of those runs. Samoa Joe is awesome, but that just goes to further prove that he also deserved to have won a world championship in WWE. It did not happen. It obviously at this point I don't think will happen. Injuries got in Joe's way, sure. I know what you're saying, Daniel. Is it true that Brock was willing to put Joe over? I don't know that for a fact. I have heard that, though. I have heard that as well, that Brock was willing to work with Joe, probably knowing he was a legitimate, knowing he was good, and was probably willing to drop the championship to him, but Vince was probably pretty adamant that Brock hold on to it until he dropped it to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania the following year. Injuries got in Joe's way, but like I said, you could have given him the championship in 2018 when he feuded with AJ Styles. He could have won the championship then. He could have been the one to beat Kofi Kingston for that WWE title in 2019 instead of Brock Lesnar. He could have won the Universal Championship from Brock even briefly. Again, they wanted to protect Brock, so I get it, but they could have put the belt on Samoa Joe for even a temporary period, if only for a fucking month, back in 2017 when he was feuding with Brock Lesnar. At any of those points, he could have been a world champion. They just chose not to. So I know the injuries thing is kind of, has been his biggest enemy. I understand that, but he absolutely could have won the world championship at some point. Fernando said Samoa Joe was so close to winning the world championship in WWE, but just couldn't stay healthy at all. Again, like I said, though, he could have won the world championship. I know what you guys are saying. He was hurt a fair amount, But, like, let's be honest here. He was a former NXT champion. I don't think he was ever hurt during his year or two stay in NXT. So that's one thing. Second thing, when he arrived on the main roster in 2017, he debuted in early 2017. He did not get hurt at that point until, after SummerSlam? He was on the main roster up until maybe August, and then he got hurt around August. So he got hurt in, like, late 2017. But prior to that, though, he was feuding with Brock over the Universal Championship. He could and should have beaten Brock for that one short, very short run in mid-2017, and he didn't, okay? So he comes back, he gets hurt again in 2018, so he wasn't at WrestleMania. I know he got hurt at that point. But again, he was around for the remainder of 2018 on SmackDown. He could have won a world championship on SmackDown, specifically from Styles during their lengthy feud in late 2018, and he fucking didn't. He was around in early 2019. He won the United States Championship, which was nice. I think he got hurt. Soon after that, he got hurt, and then in 2019, he got hurt in 2020 as well. So I know he was hurt a fair amount. I understand that. But again, all the periods in which I'm talking about, he could have won a world championship, and they decided not to. Daniel said if he was a more serious character, R-Truth, I feel like he could have been a world champ at some point, TNA version of R-Truth. The closest we came to that was when he turned heel in 2011. 2011 R-Truth, absolutely, I think, could have won the world championship. They just had bigger plans for Cena. My thing is, if Punk, I think, was always supposed to be a temporary challenger for John Cena in 2011. And it wasn't until the whole pipe bomb thing took off, and then Punk was probably going to leave at that point. He has said that. Not even probably. He was going to leave. So Cena was going to beat Punk. I don't know what the end game was, honestly, for John Cena as WWE Champion in 2011. Were they going to have him hold the championship until 2012 for the Rock match at WrestleMania 28? I don't think so. Probably not. I don't know if that match would have been for the belt. I doubt it, because Rock was probably always supposed to win that first match. But my point is that I think R-Truth was always supposed to be a temporary challenger. Punk was probably going to be a temporary challenger. Punk was not going to win that championship. R-Truth, he very could have easily won that title, and that would have been awesome. Because he was such a great heel at that point in 2011, also during the Awesome Truth stuff in the second half of that year. And he's been great ever since then. That was 14 years ago. He's been a comedy character ever since. So R-Truth I could also consider in that conversation as well. Backing up a little bit, Muhammad said, and I'll get back to your question earlier, Millennial Noob, your question about Rhea Ripley and Io Sky in a moment. Muhammad, I just want to say hi to him. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. He said, good morning, Graham Matthews. I hope you're doing well, man. And same with everyone here in the live chat on a Tuesday morning. Muhammad, hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Millennial Noob, going back to your question from earlier on, what are my thoughts on Rhea Ripley defending the Women's World Championship against Io Sky in 3 weeks on Raw? So here's my thing. I would have rather seen that match at WrestleMania. I think Rhea and Io Sky is the perfect WrestleMania match for the Women's World Championship. Why are they doing it on a random Raw and not at Elimination Chamber? First of all, it sucks they're doing it on Raw and not at a pay-per-view. It does give that Raw an added attraction. Now, why are they not doing it at the pay-per-view? Well, we have 2 Elimination Chamber matches. I assume we're probably going to get Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens one-on-one. And I feel like there's a decent chance that we might get Chelsea Green and maybe Meechin again, which I'm so fucking sick of that feud, I agree. But I think they got to get Chelsea Green on that show. She's Canadian. She was not at their Canadian Elimination Chamber show 2 years ago. She was a Money in the Bank in Toronto, to be fair, so she has competed in Toronto for WWE before on TV. But I think Chelsea Green should be on that show. That's 4 matches. You could add a 5th, but honestly, with the chamber matches, they might want to keep it a 4-match card. I think last year it was like a 4-match card. I could be wrong. It might be 5. I think it was probably 5 matches last year. And also a Grayson Waller effect segment as well with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So they might already have a full card of what they want to do on that show. They might also be doing, I think there's a decent chance we could get Tiffany Stratton and Trish Stratus on that show. Trish is not in the chamber, but she is from Toronto. She just returned to the Rumble. Have her come out as a temporary challenger, because Nia Jax is not facing her at Chamber. We know that. Nia Jax is facing Tiffany this Friday on SmackDown. Now, why would they be doing that match on SmackDown and not at the pay-per-view? Well, I think there's a chance we could see Trish appear after that match and set up a match for the pay-per-view. Could they set it up on such short notice? Probably not. But I would rather see that at the pay-per-view because Trish is from Toronto than Rhea and Io, which is WrestleMania worthy. But I think they're also doing that because Io's not going to WrestleMania, at least not in a Women's World Championship match. She might be in the tag team division, unfortunately. I look at that women's chamber match, and we'll talk more about it on Thursday. Bianca has qualified. Alexa Bliss is qualified. Liv Morgan is qualified. Of those three, Bianca is absolutely fucking winning. Let's just get that out of the way. Liv Morgan is not winning the chamber. Alexa Bliss, for as popular as she is not winning the chamber and facing Rhea at WrestleMania. That would be a fresh match. They're not doing Bliss and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. So looking at the remaining challengers, Bayley also qualified. Bayley and Rhea is possible. They did tease that. So Bayley could win. Roxanne and Raquel, I think Roxanne's winning that. Roxanne is not going to WrestleMania to face Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. I feel like Bayley and Roxanne could cancel each other out. And then this Friday on SmackDown, it's Naomi and Chelsea. Neither of those two, regardless of who advances or qualifies, is facing Rhea Ripley for that championship at WrestleMania. So I think Bianca's going to win. We're getting that rumored match between Bianca and Rhea, which the timing feels weird because it just kind of feels forced. There hasn't really been a whole lot of build for it, and that's fine. They're both baby faces right now. I would rather wait until Rhea's a heel again or Bianca's a heel again. But they want to get the match out of the way because you never know what might happen. One of them might get hurt. One of them might take time off to have a child. We just don't know, you know? So I understand them wanting to do the match on the sooner side. But it feels like Bianca's still kind of intertwined with the whole Naomi, Jade Cargill thing. She's still one half of the tag team champions. They could fix that by having her drop the belt soon to Liv Morgan or Raquel. I don't know. Bianca and Rhea is an amazing match, don't get me wrong, and I don't want to complain about it. I just feel like Io and Rhea was right there, and they're doing it on Raw instead. Better than not getting it at all, I guess, but that would be my guess. We're getting it now, or in 3 weeks on Raw anyway, after Elimination Chamber. And also, doing it after Elimination Chamber, I feel like, is not the best idea, just because at that point, the Chamber winner would have already won. Io is fucking not beating Rhea when Bianca's already qualified probably at that point for WrestleMania. I doubt we get Io and Bianca again at WrestleMania. Unless it's a triple threat, but Io is not winning that championship on a random Raw only a month or two after Rhea already won the belt from Liv Morgan. That's just not happening. So it's going to make it even more obvious that Io is not winning that championship. But I'm looking forward to the match, though. Scrolling down a little bit, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Mamadou said Nakamura when he faced AJ or Jinder. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put Nakamura in like the greatest wrestlers to have not won the world championship. I mean, current talent level wise is what you're referring to. Yeah, I could see Nakamura being on that list would make sense because I feel like he should have been a world champion. Absolutely. Definitely more than Jinder Mahal. I apologize, but it's just true. Back in 2017 or 2018, but it just never happened. John said, well, at least I got to see Cena beat Miz at Over the Limit 2011. What a fiasco of a show that was. I will say that show was a lot of the shows back in 2011 and during that period in general just sucked. But on that show, you know what match I loved? I think it was, what match did I love from that show? Oh, Randy Orton and Christian. I almost said Miz and, not Miz. CM Punk versus Rey Mysterio, but that was a capital punishment. A lot of the shows back then, they only had like one match worth watching for and the rest of the card just sucked. But the one match worth watching for from that show, because I think also in that show was like Punk and like Mason Ryan or some shit for the tag titles. They faced, I don't know, I think it was Big Show and Kane or some nonsense. It just sucked. Maybe it was Del Rio and Big Show. I think that was a capital punishment though. I don't remember. But regardless, I think, what was I even saying? On that show, Christian and Randy Orton had an amazing match. That show is worth watching for that match alone for the World Heavyweight title. Fernando said, Rusev is a current talent who never won a world championship, who totally should have. Yeah, I mean, for how popular he was, yeah. Rusev just never really stood out to me as a long-term main eventer. Now, if you're talking the Miro of 4 years ago in AEW, then yes. I could have seen that. That Miro, Rusev in WWE as a world champion, then yes. But he wasn't a guy when he got fired, I'm thinking, oh man, he really should have been like this world champion. The closest he came was in 2015, and that was a fucking decade ago. And even then, the closest he came was being the United States champion. And he held that belt a couple times, and he also got a shot against AJ, I think, in 2018. But he was never going to win then. I think he went back to being a heel at that point, I believe. Right? Or was he a babyface? I don't remember. I think he was a heel still at that point. But anyway. Muhammad said, it is damn wonderful to be here with your fine people, but it is going to be awesome. I agree, Muhammad. Thanks for joining. Mamadou said they've done enough with Meech and Chelsea matches to run a Cena Orton. They've done enough Meech and Chelsea matches to run a Cena/Orton type promo package. LOL. I agree. Fernando saying Rhea versus Io Sky after Elimination Chamber makes no sense. It should be at a PLE. Also, I agree 100%. Bianca is the odds-on favorite. Yeah, that's just where they're coming from, I think. Daniel said, Bianca's undefeated Mania streak will be in jeopardy when she goes against Rhea at Mania. LOL. Yeah, I forgot about that. At least undefeated streak on the main roster, because I think people forget she was at WrestleMania in 2018 as part of the women's WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. She competed in that as part of as an NXT talent. She was a part of that. She lost, but she wasn't pinned. But technically, she hasn't won every match she's had at WrestleMania, to be fair. Daniel did say Bianca versus Rhea could have been a Mania main event if booked properly. I agree, and that's the thing. I feel like, could it still be a Mania main event this year? Yeah, but they're only going to have like a month or so to build it. It's not, I don't know, not every feud needs a 6-month build. I agree. But like, at this point, does it have enough heat behind it to feel like a Mania main event? The answer is no. On paper, it's a Mania main event. Build-wise, will the build live up to it being a Mania main event? I don't know. But then again, I said the same thing about Sasha and Bianca, because the build for that match, I think a lot of people forget, was fucking terrible. WWE did a terrible job of building Sasha and Bianca when they were both baby faces going into WrestleMania 37. They headlined WrestleMania anyway on night 1, and they had a great fucking match. So honestly, it doesn't even matter what the build looks like. They still could very well main event night 1 of WrestleMania. Night 2 will probably be a men's match, but night 1, that could still be Bianca and Rhea if they play their cards right. Millennial Noob said Bianca pretty much forgot about who attacked Jade Cargill as well as the women's tag titles. I mean, they've defended the tag titles a few times, but the whole who attacked Jade thing, I guess she is legitimately hurt. That's been the report. But, like, on TV, there hasn't even been, like, they haven't even hinted at who else it could have been. They've brought it up maybe, like, once a month. It sure seems like she really gives a fuck about Jade Cargill if she's barely investigating, right? Like, sure seems like she doesn't give a shit about it, rather. Daniel said, what about Shelton Benjamin as far as to have never won the world championship? You know, I saw someone say that on Reddit. I don't agree. I don't think Shelton, yeah, wrestling-wise in the ring, maybe. But, like, Shelton Benjamin, aside from, like, a one-off, was never going to be a world champion long-term. His mic skills just were not good. And you could probably throw at me a whole bunch of names that were like, oh, yeah, what about Warrior and people like that? But just a lot of people, I don't know, I just feel like they had something that Shelton did not. Shelton just did not have the aura of a world champion. Like, I could have seen him as Mr. Money. They didn't even give him the fucking Mr. Money in the Bank briefcase. Like, at the very least, give him the briefcase. They didn't even do that. So, no, I wouldn't say Shelton. I think great mid-card guy, world champion long-term, probably not. Mamadou said, I had one foot out the door in 2010, 2011 before Punk dropped the pipe bomb. I think that was a lot of people. Not only were people either had one foot out the door at that point, a lot of people were just straight up not fucking watching because the product overall was not good. And the pipe bomb, I've heard from a lot of people in the last 14 years, got them back into WWE because of the pipe bomb. Daniel said same. John Ritland said, yeah, Christian versus Orton was good, but it was a dreary atmosphere otherwise. Yeah, that show was weak. Fernando said, what do you think the favor Heyman made to Punk is going to be? I don't think it's a WrestleMania main event. I know a lot of people have said, oh, it's the WrestleMania main event against Roman Reigns. What kind of pull does fucking Paul Heyman have to say, oh, yeah, I've got a favor? Like, that just, I'm probably in the minority on that. That just doesn't make sense to me. It would make more sense, and hopefully this isn't anytime soon. They don't have, first of all, they don't have to do the favor anytime soon. It doesn't have to be going into WrestleMania. It could be a while down the road. But it could be when Roman Reigns wins a world championship again and Punk wants a shot. Punk may not know what the favor is. Like, people, I think, already know what the favor is going to be. It could just be a case of, like, Punk told Heyman, you owe me, and then, you know, he cashes in on it down the road. He may not even know in storyline what his favor is going to be. He won't know what it is until it comes up. Could it be a case of he wants Heyman to manage him against Roman Reigns? That would make more sense to me. Him asking for like a Mania main event, what kind of fucking pull does Paul Heyman have to get the Mania main event for CM Punk? He's not an authority figure. So, I mean, could they do that? Yeah, but I just feel like that would be silly. So we'll see. I don't think they have to cash in on the favor going into WrestleMania. Ideally, if it was me, I would do Punk and Rhodes at WrestleMania for the World Championship in the main event at night 2. That's what I would do. But it's probably going to be Cody and Cena. That's totally fine. That's also a big match. I just don't know what you do with Punk. I know there's a lot of talk about the triple threat with Roman and Rollins. I just don't like that. I think that's a great feud and whatnot, but I'd rather see Seth and Roman have their own match on their... Unless it's a Shield triple threat, Rollins and Roman deserve their own match at WrestleMania. Technically, they already had a triple threat back in 2015 with Brock. So this, I mean, again, that was an impromptu triple threat, but just give fucking Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns their singles match at Mania finally, please. End that storyline and we can have them sing Kumbaya and move on and kiss and make up and whatever. But, with Punk, I think him facing Cody Rhodes would be the way to go, personally. Daniel said, yeah, every time I hear Shelton speak in promos or interviews, I'm reminded why he's never been a world champ, LOL. His promos just never really improved. I love Shelton. His AEW work so far has been great. I do feel like he was underutilized during his most recent run in WWE, but the guy in the ring is great. In the ring, like on the mic, there's a reason why I think he works well with MVP, because MVP is such a great talker. He can talk for Shelton, even Bobby Lashley at times as well. But even Bobby was a better talker than fucking Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin, to me, great wrestler, does not give main event aura. Never has, still doesn't. Unless he's Ring of Honor World Champion. I've seen people say that. I know Average Grunt, if you're listening, watching live or after the fact, shout out to him. I know he has said many, many times, oh yeah, Ring of Honor World Champion Shelton Benjamin. I could see that. WWE World Champion, AEW World Champion, probably not. Mamadou said, folks acting like this favor is the Money in the Bank briefcase where Punk only has a certain time for him to cash in on it, LOL. Exactly. He can cash in on it at any point he wants down the fucking road. It does not have to be anytime soon. Jordan B's other question from YouTube was, do you think the NXT Women's Title Triple Threat match should main event Vengeance Day this Saturday? So for those unaware, that's Bayley, Roxanne Perez, and the current champion, Julia. Yes, it absolutely should fucking main event on Saturday. The NXT Championship match is Obafemi versus Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, also in a triple threat. Are we fucking kidding me? Dude, like, that'll be a good match, but, like, that is so lazy. Like, they had no one else lined up for Oba. They probably want to save him Trick for WrestleMania weekend. They're going to revisit that. Oba will retain. Trick goes to the main roster. I get it. That's cool. But that's just not a compelling main event for this show. Like, I mean, I guess it's better than Obafemi versus, like, Eddie Thorpe. Like, that's a fucking weak main event. But that just feels so random to me. Like, they don't... That is how dire the men's scene is on NXT right now, that they have no one else lined up for that NXT Championship, aside from Trick Williams, who they're going to say for Stand and Deliver weekend, I'm sure, and Eddie Thorpe. That's it. Like, you don't have anyone else? That's just stupid to me. I'm sorry. That's just dumb. So, yeah. I'm not a fan of that. So all of that to say, I do think the NXT Women's Title match should absolutely go on last this weekend. Bayley, Julia, and Roxanne, first of all, on paper, has the potential to be fucking awesome. And second of all, that feels like a worthy main event. When was the last time the NXT Women's Championship headlined an NXT special anyway? I mean, I'm sure they've done it in the last couple of years. I can't think of when it would have been. So maybe if you guys in the chat can, like, look it up or something, or if you just remember. I could definitely remember if I really thought back on it, but I don't want to waste time, like, going through the gears in my head, like, oh yeah, when was the last time? I doubt it was, I don't know. I know Bayley and Sasha headlined the first NXT Live special with the women, and that was TakeOver Respect. That was 10 years ago. Was the last time that TakeOver In Your House show 5 years ago with Charlotte, Io Sky, and Rhea, another triple threat for the NXT Women's Championship? I don't think so. They had to have done one after that. They had to have. Maybe Women's War Games or something? I don't know. Millennial Noob said, I pretty much don't like A-Town Down Under. When will they break up? At this point, I just don't give a fuck. I mean, they've been teasing it for so long, I just don't care. Mamadou said they should book Obafemi like Roman as champ, not even show up until there's a worthy opponent at this point. I mean, I'm glad he shows up, but, like, Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, are we kidding? They also said men's top division in NXT is lacking. I agree, it is lacking. They do not have enough star power at the top of that card, which is why they need Ricky Starks. That was a terrible Ricky Starks impression, but yeah, they need Ricky Starks on that show, among other people. John Retland said, not for the championship of the women main evented Deadline and then Iron Survivor Challenge. Oh, they did, yeah, a couple of months ago. Richie, you are late, but I appreciate you joining us. Thank you for joining in, and always great to see you in the chat, my man. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you as well, Richie. But, yeah, you are right, John. The last time the women main evented was that Deadline show. But before that, for the championship, when was the last time the women headlined an NXT Live special? Not on TV. They're all over the TV show. When was the last time they main evented Eddie Thorpe for NXT champ? Absolutely not. When was the last time the women main evented an NXT Live special for the women's belt? That is my question for you guys. I mean, I could look it up or I could figure it out in my head, but I think that's a waste of time. So you guys can let me know. Oh yeah, Becky and Tiffany. Thank you, John. In 2023, that would have been Takeover. No, not Takeover, but like the NXT No Mercy show. Okay. So that was a great main event. So at least it hasn't been that long in 5 years, but I do think Julia, Bayley, and Roxanne should headline this weekend. Let's see. Noel from Facebook, their first question was, do you think that WWE fumbled in letting Charlotte Flair win the Royal Rumble and Charlotte just being the same old boring heel character that she always is? Mamadou, thank you for the question. I'll get to that in a moment after we answer this one. Do I think WWE fumbled in letting Charlotte Flair win the Rumble? No, I don't think it was a fumble because honestly, we talked about it last week. I didn't love that Charlotte Flair won. It was way too predictable. But it makes sense, though. If she's facing Tiffany at WrestleMania, it makes sense. Now, the question is, obviously, did Charlotte need to win? And could she have just won the Chamber instead? Obviously, yes. That is the other thing I agree with. Charlotte could have easily won the Elimination Chamber to earn that opportunity. She did not need to win the Rumble, but I don't hate it because at least it makes sense. Could you have Io Sky have won the Rumble instead? Yes, but it's pretty clear at this point they're not doing Rhea and Io at WrestleMania. They're doing that match on Raw in a couple of weeks because they're doing probably Rhea and Bianca at WrestleMania instead, which is at least a worthy WrestleMania. If you're going to do any match beyond Rhea and Io, doing it at WrestleMania instead, or Rhea and Bianca, at least is a worthy match to do instead. I will say that. So WWE didn't fumble in letting Charlotte win the Rumble, but they did fumble in thinking, I mean, you're saying the same old boring heel. I mean, at least she's a fucking heel. I mean, to think that she would have been a babyface coming back, on paper, like, it makes sense. She was gone for 14 months. You know, absence does usually make the heart grow fonder. For the exception of that rule is Charlotte Flair. She comes back and she still gets fucking booed. It's like, this woman can't get you break, and it's honestly partially her fault because her delivery is so fitting for a heel. The delivery of her promos is terrible. It's just not good. The material they give her isn't much better. As a character, she's just not endearing. I've talked to Charlotte out of character. I've talked to Ashley, the person, and she's very nice, and she comes across like, okay, this is someone that I feel like fans could be sympathetic towards. Why are we not seeing that side of her on television? And they just refuse to portray her in that light. So, yeah, I mean, at least she's a heel and not a babyface. But the key is, I would much rather see her as a heel than as a babyface. But the key is making her the heel for a feud with a babyface Tiffany. Tiffany's already over anyway. People have already been cheering for Tiffany for the last year. So it's not like, we're going to have to force Charlotte as a heel. They're going to boo Tiffany too. I feel like the dynamic makes sense. But they need to evolve the Charlotte character. I've been hearing for years, oh yeah, she's coming back with a different character, a new presentation. And then she comes back and what happens? She is the exact same fucking character every single fucking time. Back to Mamadou's question though, he said, does Miro come back as Miro or Rusev? I feel like he comes back as Rusev. WWE, when people leave and then come back, even if they are going by other names in other companies, almost 95% of the time they come back with the WWE name that they had. Unless they're completely reinventing themselves and they were like a loser before as like a jobber and then come back as a main eventer, they're typically still that WWE name. Now that being said, they do own, the Rusev name. They have equity in it. But they do own Ty Dillinger, and they brought him back as Shawn Spears. He's pretty much in the same spot that he was in before he left. He's just doing the Shawn Spears character that he was doing in AEW. So I thought it was cool they're letting him be Shawn Spears, which I think is his real name. Maybe not. I don't think Spears is his real last name. I doubt it. But, they let him be Shawn Spears. So is it possible they did the same thing for Rusev? Yeah, but that's even assuming WWE would bring him back. I mean, does Miro, one, even want to go there? And two, is it even worth it? Like, of all the people that we're hearing could be on their way out of AEW or are on their way out of AEW, Ricky Starks, Malachi / Aleister Black, Miro / Rusev. Of those three people, we'll talk about it more in WrestleRant Radio on Thursday, but Miro is like the least worth it of those three. Like, his time was years ago. His AEW run was incredibly underwhelming overall. He really reinvented himself, which was great, but like, in WWE, would they really tap into that? Would he even give a fuck? Would he be all that inspired to really do much in WWE? Probably not. It would be cool to see him as Miro with that God Redeemer, gimmick. I just don't see that happening. Richie said, shoehorning Rhea versus Bianca. This is so last minute. Seems so bizarre when Rhea versus Io is literally right there. I completely agree. We got done talking about that a little while ago. where Rhea and Io, to me, is the WrestleMania match they've been building to for a while. And Rhea and Bianca, I don't want to complain, is a WrestleMania-worthy attraction / main event, but it's going to feel forced if Bianca wins the Rumble, and it's like, okay, she's been on SmackDown, she's been busy with Naomi and Jade, and now all of a sudden she's going to be challenging for a championship at Mania. That feels out of the blue to me. Mamadou said Charlotte would be more palpable if she wasn't so shoehorned into everything. I agree. I understand. Millennial Noob also said Charlotte Flair in her presentation is stale and dry. Where is Asuka? She has more character in terms of entertainment value. A lot of the women on the roster have more entertainment value, I would say, than Charlotte Flair. But Charlotte Flair is great. I'm looking forward to Charlotte and Tiffany. I am well prepared for the possibility and really just the reality that Charlotte Flair is beating Tiffany on that show and winning that championship, but it is what it is, I guess, at this point. But yeah, her presentation isn't great. She is still the same fucking character she has been for the last 10 years. The lack of evolution is the issue. She has turned face, but she's not a good face because people will still boo her. I feel like it's just, I said this on Twitter last Monday, it is astonishing to me that she has been in the company on the main roster specifically for a fucking decade, and she still sucks at the delivery of her promos more often than not. Her promos are not her strong suit. She'll have some good times, but a lot of her promos are just not good. And that does not help with trying to endear her to the audience or trying to make her sound different than she was before. She's still the same fucking character she was a year or two ago before she left. At Iwagu, or actually no L's second question. Do you see Bayley staying in NXT for a while, helping out NXT's women's division? Obviously she's pulling double duty. She was pulling double duty while she was on SmackDown, also doing NXT. She's pulling double duty right now on Raw while also on NXT. I think she's going to stay in NXT until the Roxanne Perez feud ends, probably around WrestleMania weekend. They're doing the triple threat this weekend with Bayley, Roxanne, and Julia, which we got done talking about a couple minutes ago. I think that leads into Julia retaining, obviously. And then us getting Roxanne and Bayley one-on-one at Stand and Deliver. I don't think Bayley gets a WrestleMania match. I think her WrestleMania match might be that match the day before WrestleMania. So that's probably where they're going with it. And yeah, so I see her staying in NXT until then to help out Roxanne. Hopefully losing to her. I think she probably would. And then maybe they can resume the rivalry on the main roster. Roxanne's she's in a fucking Elimination Chamber qualifier next Monday. So she's essentially on the main roster at this point. They're just kind of easing her into the roster. They could always continue Bayley and Roxanne on the main roster, but Bayley's time in NXT will be over when that feud is over or when Roxanne's time in NXT is over. After that, Bayley's done in NXT. And she's perfectly fine on Raw as it is. It's not like she has to be in NXT full-time. AJ Watson, thank you for joining us. I appreciate the question. He had asked, do you feel that The Rock not being at Mania and not having that match with Cody or Roman will make this Mania a little underwhelming? No, I don't agree, just because I feel like, they have so many different superstars and top talent on the roster right now where they do not need The Rock at that show. They have so many other top talent that they don't even know what to do with. Like, we're at a position right now where they might be doing Cody, Punk, and Rollins in a triple threat. Not for even a fucking title. They might not even be doing it for a championship because, they don't really know what else to do with these guys if Punk doesn't fit in there, and they have Cena back, and they have all these other people back and doing stuff. Logan Paul's around right now. Punk is healthy this year. They don't need The Rock. They didn't even really need The Rock last year either, obviously, before he came in and shoehorned himself into the fucking picture. But they don't need him this year as well. So, no, I don't think that The Rock not being there or wrestling will make this WrestleMania any better or worse, to be honest with you. Richie said, I guess Ric Flair didn't pass the promo gene, to Charlotte. Daniel saying he certainly passed the divorce gene. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, she is, unfortunately, up to 3 different divorces now over the last, 12 years or something since she's been in WWE. That's I can't argue with that. I think Rick's had 4 divorces, maybe 3, at least 3 or 4. So she's catching up with the divorces as much as she is the title runs. Next question from @Iwagu91. Do you see, speaking of Roxanne Perez, do you consider Roxanne Perez's second NXT Women's title reign to be better than Mandy Rose's title reign? Yes, it was. Roxanne's run did not last as long as Mandy's. Mandy had a good run, but a lot of her matches were just not great. You cannot sit here and tell me Mandy Rose had this great in-ring run. Her real strength as the NXT Women's Champion was the presentation, the character stuff, the promos even. Roxanne Perez in the ring, she had much better matches with Jordynne Grace, Thea Hale, Jada Parker, Julia, Lyra Valkyria, Tatum Paxley, Natalia. A lot of the women she worked with on TV, Chelsea Green, I think, as well, easily surpassed a lot of the stuff that Mandy Rose was doing as NXT champion in the ring. Mandy Rose had matches on TV. She had the 4-way standing deliver a couple of years ago. I was there for that one. That wasn't really that, all that impressive of a match. It was okay. It was a fine fatal 4-way. When she lost it to Roxanne, that was a TV match. That was good. But I'm trying to think what else. She had that subpar match. She had a couple subpar matches with Alba Fire that really weren't all that good. Roxanne's run was better than Mandy Rose, if only in ring-wise. But I think it was better overall, in my personal opinion. Richie saying Rick is a 17-time divorce champion, I think. He's at least 5 divorces, John says. Matthew Rodriguez, thank you for joining us. I appreciate the question. Hope you're doing well. He said, predict the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2025. I think we did this a couple of weeks ago, but obviously the Triple H is in. I would put Demolition in. Mickie James, I feel like makes sense as the female pick, if not Victoria. So Mickie James is also on that LFG show right now on A&E. So I just feel like it just makes all the sense in the world to put her in this year. Mickie James, Demolition. I don't know how many Pothamus inductees they want, but what's his name? King Kong Bundy, I don't think is in. He should be in. But also Bam Bam Bigelow was supposed to go in, I think, over WrestleMania 35 weekend and when they were in New Jersey, which is where he's from. And they didn't put him in that year for whatever reason, and he's still not in, so he should be in as well. Cyndi Lauper really should be in by now. I'm not really sure if she doesn't want to do it. But Cyndi Lauper is still alive, so she could be in there. Rick Martel, if he wants to do it, would be cool. There's not really a whole lot of people that they haven't inducted yet that should be in, that haven't already said no or whatever. So those are the main ones. I would say those are the main ones. Millennial Noob said, will we see a potential split between Roxanne and Cora Jade during Roxanne's feud with Bayley? I think we already have. Cora almost attacked her on NXT last week, so I think I think they already did split. I think that was supposed to indicate that they're not on the same page and that they're no longer together as a team. So, yes, I think Roxanne and Cora would make sense. Matthew said, I would love to see Goldust. They don't typically use people from other promotions. I know they did with Ric Flair when he was in TNA, but I don't really think they're currently willing to work with AEW and that sort of thing. The Hardy Boys I could also see going in as well, but they're still very much active in TNA. But they work with TNA, so they could definitely induct the Hardys as the tag team pick if they wanted to. But the Hardys aren't done yet, so I would wait until they're done. But then again, Rey Mysterio got inducted 2 years ago. He's still going strong, so who even gives a shit, I guess. But Goldust, it would be awesome. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. I just don't know if they do it while he's in AEW. And he just resigned, so it's not going to happen anytime soon. You know who I would also put in? William Regal. William Regal works there now. He can appear on TV as of a year plus ago. William Regal belongs in. He was supposed to go in years ago. I would put him in. AJ Watson saying, which title reign was more bearable, Triple H's Reign of Terror or Roman's last 2 years as champion? So I'm going to say Roman's last 2 years as champion because at least there was a story there. Roman should not have been champion from 39 to 40. He should have lost it at 39, but at least they made it worth it with the way the title loss was done and executed at WrestleMania 40 to Cody Rhodes. I wasn't watching during Triple H's Reign of Terror, but it was a lot of the same shit. The matches weren't good. At least Roman matches were largely good. The Jey Uso match wasn't great at SummerSlam 2023, but the LA Knight match was very good. The Royal Rumble Fatal 4-Way about a year ago was good. The Cody Rhodes match was great, obviously, at Mania last year. So I'm going to go Roman's last 2 years as champion. Triple H was obviously on TV more than Roman was, but Roman was just on a different level. It felt like I was still excited to see the reign go on to a certain extent because he just had a different aura to him as champion. Triple H, at that point, was having a lot of the same feuds, cutting the same promos. I say not putting anyone over, which is true, but at the same time, it's not like Roman put anyone over ultimately, aside from by working with his family, he did. But also Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, he put him over there as well. But yeah, I would go Roman's last 2 years as champion. Next question, also from @Uagu91 on Twitter. Do you think that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn should face off inside Hell in a Cell? I could see that. I could see that happening at some point. I think they're going to have their match at Elimination Chamber in Toronto because they're both Canadian. And then after that, they're probably going to go on to different stuff at WrestleMania. So I think Kevin Owens faces Randy Orton if he is indeed cleared and he's not actually hurt, or if he is hurt, he's back by then. I think we get Owens and Orton at WrestleMania. I don't know where that leaves Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn carrying Cross. That doesn't exactly scream WrestleMania worthy, but it's an option. So anyway, if they're going to do Owens and Zayn as a one-off at Elimination Chamber, I don't think it would be inside Hell in the Cell. Down the road, yeah, I think a Hell in the Cell match between the two would make sense. But I don't think it happens at Elimination Chamber when they probably have that match. Matthew asked, now even a fantasy crazy question he put in the chat. If the Forbidden Door opens, what AEW wrestlers, male and female, can induct in the 2025 Hall of Fame like Mickie James, Triple H, Cyndi Lauper, etc.? Well, I mean, you said Goldust, so Goldust would be perfect. You know who else from AEW I would put in the Hall of Fame? Christian Cage. Again, he's still active, so I don't know if you would want to put him in right now. But if he was up for it, Christian Cage, Goldust, Jericho would make sense. Again, he's still active, unfortunately, at this point. But Jericho is obviously Hall of Fame worthy. He's probably, honestly, a headliner, so I don't know if he would put Jericho in. But Big Show as well. Big Show belongs in the Hall of Fame. The fact that he's not is kind of crazy, but he went to AEW right after he left WWE in 2021, so there was never really a chance for them to induct him before he jumped ship to AEW. So Big Show also belongs in the Hall of Fame. So Big Show, Christian, Jericho, and Goldust are all people that make sense that are in AEW currently. If they could induct people from AEW, those people would make sense. At Iwagu91, their third question was, does it surprise you that wrestlers born in the 90s have yet to become world champions in the WWE, NXT title notwithstanding? That is a very niche question. Does it surprise me that people born in the 90s have yet to win a world title in WWE? I assume you mean the men, because I'm sure there have been women that were born. I mean, Rhea Ripley's a former women's world champion, and she was born after me. I was born in 95. So women have certainly won world championships in WWE that were born in the 90s. But I'm 29, turning 30 in a couple months. So you're telling me if you were born in 90, that means you're 35. Then no one that is currently 35 or under has won a world championship. Does that surprise me? You know what? It does. Because Damian Priest was 30-something when he won the World Heavyweight Championship. I think he was either 39 or 40. Paige was born in 92. Thank you. Great to see you, Y, in the chat. I think he's talking men. Because women, obviously, Paige did. Rhea Ripley has, among other women. So I'll get, Matthew, I'll get to your question. Dylan, great to see you in the chat. We'll get to your question or your comment in a second. Yeah, I'm just trying to think like the world, like Roman was champion for 4 fucking years. So, I mean, at that point, that kind of makes sense as to why they don't really have people win championships anymore at like 25 or under. Austin Theory came close and lost. So Austin Theory could have been that guy and they just didn't do it. But Roman being champion for 4 years kind of messed that up on the SmackDown side of things. The World Heavyweight Championship has only just been around for the last year. And the people that held that, Rollins was over like late 30s, 40 years old. Damian Priest, same thing. Drew McIntyre's late 30s. Gunther. How old is Gunther? Was Gunther born in like, he's probably like 30-something. Gunther, wrestler. So he's 37. He was born in 87. Okay. So yeah, I guess, I mean, I am surprised by that, but when you really think about it, it makes sense as far as why that wouldn't have happened yet. Let's see, back to the chat. Dylan's saying, fly, Eagles, fly. Who do you want to win the chamber, both men and women's, and who do you think is going to win? Dylan and I discussed this last night, but I'll say it again here. Who would I like to win? I mean, the women, I would have wanted Io Sky, but that's obviously not happening. She's not in it. I think Bianca will win. I think she should win. Alexa Bliss ain't winning. I don't really care if she does win. I don't think Alexa Bliss and Rhea is really a WrestleMania-worthy match. Bayley could win, but I don't really see that happening. Roxanne, too early for that, I think. Would be cool. Not going to happen. Chelsea or Naomi, not going to happen. And Liv is definitely not going to happen. So I want Bianca to win. I think she will win. For the men, John Cena, I think, will win. I want CM Punk to win. Drew would be a good option. Seth and Balor, I think Seth is advancing. Seth will not win, I don't think. But yeah, I would like Punk to win. I think Punk and Cody would sell itself at WrestleMania. Matthew said, you misunderstood my question. What AEW male and female can induct the inductee into the 2025 class? Mickie James, Triple H, Cyndi Lauper, etc. Oh, then nobody. If you're talking about like someone from that company that could, induct, that could induct, someone into the Hall of Fame, no one really comes to mind, honestly. Like, what's the point of bringing in, like, is anyone like Triple H that close to anyone in AEW? Like, if Shawn Michaels was in AEW, then yes. But, like, we're going off of the class that I proposed, like Mickie James being inducted. Mickie James, I feel like, would be inducted by Trish. I just feel like that makes sense. Or someone close to Mickie. None of those people, I think, are in AEW, so no, I would not use anyone from AEW to induct someone into the Hall of Fame unless they're being inducted themselves. Why in the chat saying, shoot, the current champ, WWE Women's Champ, Tiffany Stratton, was born in 99, but you're talking men, LOL. Yeah, I think that's what the question was referring to that I was sent in, that was sent to me. But yeah, Tiffany, like you said, she was born in 99. She's fucking 25, 24 years old, so she's a prime example of that. No one from the year 2000 has won, I don't think, a world championship on the main roster. Roxanne Perez has. She's an NXT Women's Champion, and she was born in 2001. That's fucking crazy, man. Man, we are getting old. That is nuts. Yeah, Roxanne Perez was born in 01. But we're talking World Championship on the main roster. I don't think anyone has had that happen yet. Richie said, the Walter Gunther glow-up needs to be studied. That's an all-time transformation. It is crazy. When you type in Walter Gunther on Twitter, or on Google, rather, that picture of him comes up from what he looked like in NXT UK. It is amazing. I mean, he saved his career with that. I don't know if that fat Gunther, for as great as he was, would have been a world champion in WWE. Even with Triple H in charge, honestly, I feel like he had to go through that body transformation. Emmanuel A. joining us in the chat saying, yo, great to see you, Emmanuel. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your Tuesday. Matthew said, I think for a funny moment, Cyndi Lauper is being inducted by Wendy Richter, a.k.a. Tony Storm. You know the joke. Yeah, I mean, how many people from the WWE audience would understand that, though? No one would fucking get that at all, but I understand what you're saying. Richie said 2001 is nasty. I mean, that is crazy. I know how young Roxanne is, but knowing that she was born in the new millennium is just mind-blowing to me. John said, we're getting old laughs and 44 years old. John, I feel like you're not a day over 27. Seriously. But yeah, John's the man. Y said, do you think anyone will beat Orton's record as the youngest world champion at 24? Someday, probably. I don't know who that would be from the current roster. For the men, obviously, Roxanne Perez could technically win a... Is she 24? I think she's 22. So Roxanne could be champion in the next couple of years. She could beat that record. For the men, Austin Theory could have. They dropped the ball on that, I think. Obafemi's not 22 or whatever. I'd have to look at the NXT roster. Obafemi's 26, so that's not happening. Trick Williams, I don't think he's 30. Wow, nothing against Trick. Trick is great, but I thought he was younger than that. Yeah, I think it could be beaten at some point. I just don't know who that would be. Millennial Noob saying, boy, do I feel old hearing this. Dylan said, damn, Roxanne is my age, LOL. She joined when she was like fucking 19 years old. That's the crazy thing. Roxanne was already incredibly decorated in wrestling, a former Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. She spent time in MLW and all these other promotions, Ring of Honor and TNA even very briefly before coming to WWE, and she's already a two-time NXT Women's Champion. Just nuts. Emmanuel A. said, speaking of ages, have you ever heard the rumor that Randy Orton winning the World Heavyweight Championship in 04 was to spite Brock Lesnar's record for youngest world champion? Not only have I heard that, I think that's true. I think they only put the belt on Orton because Brock had left the company months earlier, and Brock was the youngest world champion in WWE at 25 or whatever it was. Orton broke that record within months of Brock leaving, and they never booked Orton properly as world champion. It felt rushed, and they took the belt off him in a month. But he'll always have that record of being the youngest world champion in WWE history, for the men anyway. So yes, I feel like that's absolutely fact. WWE loves to spite people, and I feel like that was done on purpose, especially given the fashion in which Brock Lesnar left the company in 2004. Y said, the young OG, Javon Evans, they have 4 years to do it, LOL. Yeah, Javon Evans, I don't know if he's going to be world champion in 4 years. I wouldn't make him world champion just to break the record, but he is incredibly young, so I guess if anyone could do it from NXT currently, it would be him. You are right. Billy, great to see you in the chat. Thanks for joining us, my man. Always awesome to see you sending questions. I hope you're doing well. He said, hi, Grim. Apologies for not sending in questions the last couple of weeks. Hope all is well with you. Is this the new thing, live questions? Yes, it is, Billy. We've been doing live videos for hashtag for the last month now, since the first Tuesday, I believe, of 2025. So we're going live every Tuesday, not Wednesdays, for those that have not yet gotten the formula, the new layout, the new schedule. We're live every Tuesday with hashtag AskGSM. We're live every Thursday with WrestleRant Radio, and live most Saturdays with SmackDown reviews. Live questions, but also if you send in questions ahead of time, I'll keep cutting back to that. So if nothing's going on in the chat, I'll go back to the questions that were sent in to me ahead of time from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And I always put out the questions in the posts on X, on Facebook, every week, asking for the questions. If people send them in, great. If they don't, we rely on the chat. So that is the new formula that we're going with. Now, Fernando, thank you for the fire emoji. Stream as usual, fire stream as usual. Great to see you, Fernando, as I said earlier. I appreciate that. Daniel said a lot can happen in 4 years. Absolutely. Anything can happen. He could absolutely, Javon Evans could absolutely catch fire and win a world championship in WWE. Boy, that's quite a name. We talking about Y's name? Well, I just call him Y because I can't even begin to pronounce his name. There's some other names I will attempt to pronounce and probably botch. Y's name, I will not even try because I'm going to do you a big disservice by even doing that. So I'll just call you Y as I have the last couple of streams. If you're just joining now or after the fact or you're watching after we're done streaming here, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like the video. That stuff is greatly appreciated. Support the channel, support the show. Means a lot, does make a difference. So be sure to like the video and also hit the bell button to be notified every single time we go live. If you're wondering, you're usually live at 1, or you're usually live at 11, noon. It's typically between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But that sometimes does change depending on my schedule. So if you want to find out when we're live, sometimes I'll schedule the stream ahead of time and you can find out then. But you'll be notified every time we go live. If you hit that bell button, you get a notification saying, hey, we're live with #AskGSM, or we're live with WrestleRant Radio, which on Thursday, like I said at the beginning of the stream, we're going to be live on Thursday morning, very early, around 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. Mr. Marceau has got a scheduling conflict, but we're going to be recording live just earlier than usual. So if you're up early on a Thursday morning, this coming Thursday, you can join us, and we'll be up early on Thursday talking all the latest in the world of wrestling and the Super Bowl. Mr. Marceau will give his thoughts on Thursday morning, so join us for that. Let's see. Billy said your thoughts on the AEW releases. Will any of them join WWE? And more importantly, who do you want to see sign? Personally, I want to see Ricky Starks. Not too fused about Miro/Rusev. I don't think Miro/Rusev is going to WWE. And if he does, it would be cool. Like, I wouldn't complain. I think it'd be cool. I don't know if he wants to. I mean, honestly, given how uninspired his last couple of years in AEW were, I just don't really see the point. Malachi Black, I think, will definitely end up in WWE. I feel like that's a given. Ricky Stark should also go there, but I could see him going through NXT first. We'll talk more about the releases here in a minute because someone else asked about it. But, yeah, I feel like Ricky and Malachi for sure. Miro, not as much of a guarantee. Maybe for a cameo at some point, for a full-on run. I'd be down for it. I just don't know what the odds of them actually using him to his full potential are at this point, given how the last couple of years in his AEW run were kind of a waste. Richie said, wait, is that the Christian shirt that I recognized you from that NEW show that you're wearing? Yes, it is, Richie. This is the same Christian shirt that I was wearing when I met you for the first time in person back in 2017. You know, the funny thing about this shirt, I love this shirt. This was the shirt that they came out with for Christian, I think back in 2013. One of the first wrestling shirts I ever bought, actually, in early 2014 when I bought this shirt. Not only was I wearing this shirt when I met you, Richie, for the first time in 2017, I was also wearing this shirt because Christian was at that show. I was wearing the shirt a month earlier because Christian was there. I was wearing the shirt when I met him a month earlier. And we went into this whole discussion, which I didn't even start. He saw me wearing the shirt and we just started talking about it. He loves this design. He said, oh, that was my favorite shirt that I ever had, and here's the story behind it. I designed it myself, all this other shit. Christian was the fucking man. Talking to him was just really cool. As someone that was always one of my longtime favorite wrestlers and an inspiration for me, it was really cool to have had that conversation with him. It is indeed a goated tee. I agree, Richie. Thank you for saying that. Why said, does Miro even want to wrestle anymore? LOL. Honestly, I would be surprised if he did. He probably collected a pretty big paycheck from AEW just to sit at fucking home to do absolutely nothing. So, honestly, at this point, he also got divorced from Lana last year, CJ Perry, a year or two ago. So, very, very big possibility that he may not even want to wrestle anymore. And if he does, because I think he lives in Bulgaria now, too. WWE is not going to bring him back if he lives in Bulgaria. He would have to move back to the States. And I think he moved back to Bulgaria for a reason. So if he's not moving back to the States, he's probably not coming in. And he's not that worthy of a signing at this point anyway. Dylan said, do you think Miro will wrestle somewhere after his release, or do you think he is done? I think he's honestly likely done. Like, what else would he even do? AEW is willing to use people that live in other countries, but he's done. He's probably done there. MLW isn't really worth his budget. TNA, I doubt. WWE is the only real option. Like, I doubt he'll work for New Japan. I guess that could work maybe. Miro in New Japan would be cool. WWE is the only real thing that makes sense because he spent so many years there initially. But, like, if he's not living in the States and he's not really, like, a hot commodity because he hasn't been in years, then what's the point? Emmanuel, exactly, bringing up what I just talked about. Apparently, Miro moved back to Bulgaria and was on a radio show where he said that he has a great real estate investment portfolio that he can live off of for the rest of his life. There you go. I honestly, if we were taking bets, I do not think Miro goes to any company for a full-on run ever again. I could see him returning to WWE for like a one-off or something, or really any company. But for like a full-on run, honestly, I don't really think he's invested anymore. No pun intended. I feel like he's just done. At Reborn Again from Twitter, John, he's in the chat, but he also sent in a couple questions ahead of time. He asked, with Starks, Miro, Malachi finally out of AEW, do you think all three will end up in WWE soon? Also, do you see this as a sign that Khan may relent and release Phoenix soon? So Miro, we just talked about. No, I don't see him ending up in WWE. Starks and Malachi, I do. I think Malachi reports right to the main roster as he should. Maybe after WrestleMania. Net after WrestleMania would be fucking awesome. Ricky Starks, I could see going to NXT first. I feel like that just makes sense. They could use him on the main roster, but honestly, NXT's men's division is so fucking depleted that I feel like they could use him a lot more than the main roster could. So Ricky Starks in NXT would be awesome. Is that a sign that Khan may relent and release Phoenix soon? I could see it. I could totally see that. Just because they're probably going to let all these other people go if they haven't already. What makes Phoenix any different? I mean, they're paying this guy to sit at home and do fucking nothing. So, and that was the case for so many of these other people, apparently. Like Miro's been collecting a paycheck for years to do nothing, and he's been cleared for a long time. There's no difference between him and Ray Phoenix. They just wouldn't want Ray Phoenix to go to WWE. But if that was the case with Starks and Miro and Malachi, what makes them different than him? You know? Selfishly, I hope they don't release Phoenix soon just because I'm loving Penta on his own right now in WWE. He's getting over. He's having an amazing run. I don't really see the reason to reunite him with Phoenix anytime soon. But, you know, I would love to see Phoenix be freed. Obviously, I just don't. I'm just personally on the train of Penta being a single star, so I'm not in any rush, is my point, to see Phoenix and Penta reunite in WWE. But at some point, it absolutely will happen. Maybe later on this year, we'll see. Why said Oba versus Omos, aesthetically speaking, would be dope. Aesthetically, sure. I mean, match-wise, it might be fucking awful is the reality, but as aesthetically speaking, it might be interesting. And Omos ain't doing shit right now. They have not used him on the main roster in well over a year. Daniel saying Omos is busy getting mega pops over in Japan, LOL. He's done in Japan. He left. He relinquished one half of the GHC or whatever it is. Tag team titles. He won the tag titles, had to relinquish it. And I think he's back here in the States. He was at Rumble Weekend. I saw him. And they didn't put him in the Rumble, thankfully. That would have been a waste of a spot. But, you know, I do that. Emmanuel, yes. Someone did ask me about the WWE releases. John did, actually. That was the next question I'll get to from the scheduled questions in a moment. I'll talk about the WWE releases in a second. Yeah, Omos, though, they could use him in NXT. He never really had an NXT run. I think I don't know if he spent any time in NXT on TV. The first time I remember seeing him on WWE TV was as the massive ninja. Was the massive ninja in the whole fucking Viking Raiders Street Profits bullshit with Akira Tozawa back in 2020, which was terrible. But yeah, I think he is done in Japan. I'm pretty sure. So maybe he could show up in NXT as honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I would rather see Obafemi and Omos at Vengeance Day this weekend than Obafemi versus Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Because there is just, I mean, Omos wouldn't win the championship either. But if Omos was not going to main event the show, which I don't think it would anyway, and the women should main event, what would be the problem in doing Omos versus Obafemi? What's the point of protecting Obafemi, or rather protecting Omos at this point? I feel like that would be more of an attraction than whatever the fuck we're getting this Saturday with Waller, Theory, and Femi. Backtracking a little bit here. John said a little bit a while ago, Wardlow should be out of the door next. WWE should try to get something out of him. I agree. Wardlow's another one. If they can let him go, he would be perfect in NXT. Use him over there, rehab him a little bit, put him on the main roster. I feel like he fits that WWE mold to a T. Richie said, Tony needs to let Keith Lee go. I want to see him back in WWE when he's healthy, of course, in WWE, with some of the talent that's around now. You know, the Keith Lee thing is, it's a different circumstance because he's been healthy or he's not healthy. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's healthy because otherwise, I heard he was at Dynamite last week backstage. He wasn't on the show. But, like, could he ever be what he was 5 years ago? That's the point. Like, will Keith Lee ever be what he was before he got sick? Because he's been on and off TV in WWE and AEW for the last 5 fucking years. And I love the guy. He's an amazing talent. But I feel like if he was ever going to fulfill his full potential, he would have done so in AEW. And it may not entirely be their fault. It might be a Keith Lee health situation where he might not be able to go at the same level that he was even a few years ago. So, you know, I would love to see Keith Lee back in WWE with his old music. Fingers crossed. I doubt that happens. And I'm talking the original CFO. I think it was CFO, that original song that he did back in 2019, a fucking banger. And then they got rid of it when he went to the main roster. I just don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. We'll get to the releases in a second. Dylan said, Tony needs to stop being petty and just release Rey Fenix. Free him from the AEW prison, LOL. No, I agree. Daniel said, I was going to get a pick with Omos in the Rumble, but I was bust at the time. I was bust at the time? What does that mean? Do I want to know what that means? I was bust at the time? Plus, I didn't want to feel shorter than I already am, 5'11", LMAO. Yeah, he's fucking massive. I've interviewed Omos. I've met Omos. I've shared pictures on Twitter before. I have an interview with him, I believe, here on the channel. You can go back out of your way to check it. I just type in Omos interview. He's fucking huge. Like, the camera isn't even completely still. You know, he's like here, and I'm like here. I'm barely in frame. Dylan said, GSM, you still haven't given Omos a Swedish fish. I will when I see him. Next time I see him, I'll give him a Swedish fish. I know he's a big Swedish fish fan. Richie said, Omos versus Omafemi would go hard. It fucking would. I mean, I don't know if the match would be any good, but aesthetically speaking, like we said earlier, you know, that would be the way to go. Why said MJF doesn't get enough flack for running over Wardlow's momentum. I mean, yeah. I mean, Wardlow, when he beat MJF at Double or Nothing 2022, that should have been the top story. But MJF is like bullshit behind the scenes really overshadowed that. And then his whole pipe bomb from a couple days later was bigger than Wardlow's win. And that was the beginning of the end for Wardlow and AEW. They never capitalized off of that. They put the TNT title on him. Forgettable runs every single time. Just, that was, I don't know if MJF is completely to blame, but from the night that MJF, you know, lost to Wardlow, that should have been a big moment. Even that was overshadowed. It was just all downhill from there. John said, but yes, he was a Bearcat, Graham, a Bearcat. Yes, he was. Don't fucking remind me. That shit was awful. Daniel said, please don't remind me about that Bearcat era. Sorry, they meant to say busy, not bust. Yeah. I mean, Omos is one of the nicest guys on the entire roster. If you ever have the chance to meet him in person down the road, take the opportunity. One of the nicest guys on the entire roster. Richie said, I saw Omos at the hotel during Mania last year, although he wasn't hard to miss. He's fucking huge. I saw him at the hotel, the Talent Hotel. I was doing media there or whatever over Mania weekend 3 years ago. So I was leaving, and then he was coming in, and I saw him, and I had to get a picture. And he was super fucking nice. I've seen him a couple times since then. He's always great. But yeah, just a massive dude. Ahmed joining us. Great to see you, Ahmed. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. John's second question from the scheduled questions. He said, with the recent releases in WWE apparently being done to clear space for call-ups, does that spell doom for some more lower card talents? Ahmed said they're great. You're talking about the fucking... You sound like Tony the Tiger. Anyway, he said, honestly, most of the releases were people who were not used that well lately, if at all. Yeah, I could see, I could believe that report that they released a whole bunch of people to make room for call-ups. That's the nature of the business. Honestly, like, every single person that gets released is not missed potential. Some people they could have done more with. Blair Davenport, I'm not going to cry a river over, but, like, they barely used her before they let her go. She only had a couple of matches. She wasn't bad. She's very talented. They never really gave her a chance to kind of get over, so that's on WWE. Duke Hudson, I feel like, deserved a run on the main roster. They never even really gave him a shot. They did 5 years ago, but They did the Chase U thing, had a lot of success there. I think they thought that was his ceiling, and that's fine. Hopefully he can kind of reinvent himself and start over elsewhere. Then who was the other individual? Cedric, like at this point, they weren't going to do shit with Cedric. Like, I hate the fact that he re-signed and then they got rid of him. That sucks. Firing Carl Anderson while he's injured is also pretty shitty. But like the OC, does anyone really give a fuck they got fired? I mean, honestly, like, at this point, no one even knew they were even still employed. Giovanni Vinci is someone they could have tried with. I think Giovanni Vinci was a really good talent. They barely even fucking tried. And then they just completely buried him when he broke off from Imperium. That was, not only did they not try, they specifically, purposely buried Giovanni Vinci. He got the Tucker treatment, Emmanuel said. At least with Giovanni Vinci, like, at least they tried. Tucker was never he was never really that good. They turned him heel. He was never really on TV. Then he disappeared and got fired. Giovanni Vinci, like, they tried to make you think they were going to push him with the vignettes. Like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then they buried him the night that he wrestled against Apollo Crews. And then again a couple of weeks later, and that was it for him on the main roster. I think, like, Tucker, they just had no plans for. Giovanni Vinci, they tried to make you think that they were going to push him, and then they fucking didn't. So, those are my thoughts on the releases. Yeah, I do think they got rid of a lot of, people to kind of clear way for incoming talents and call-ups and stuff like that. That's any sports team. That's almost any business. I'm not going to say that releases are great. I hate to see anyone lose their job and shit. But, like, this shit happens all the time. Like, when they do mass releases, I don't like that because it's like, let the contracts expire. Like, with Sonya Deville, I don't really think she was missed potential. She was there for a fucking decade. Richie had even said, I think out of the recent crop of potential or releases, Sonya Deville had the most untapped potential. I agree and I disagree. Honestly, like, I think Blair Davenport and Giovanni Vinci had higher ceilings than she did. Sonya was there for 10 years. She's been back from injury for a year. She looked like she kind of regressed in the ring. Her peak was when she was on her own during the Mandy Rose feud 5 years ago. I know the Stalker thing happened and she had to take time off and she was gone for a couple of months. But, like, she came back and they still didn't really do anything with her. She was great in the GM role, but they already have GMs now. They're not going to really do anything there. I don't know. Sonya, the whole PFC thing fucking sucked. The PFC group was awful. So again, not celebrating the fact that she's gone, but she's someone, like, hopefully she can prove WWE wrong by going elsewhere to, like, NXT or some shit and have a great run. Or not NXT. That's still WWE. TNA or AEW or fucking whatever else. I mean, if she wants to wrestle, she may not even want to wrestle. But she was there for 10 years. Like, I mean, I can't sit here and say that they didn't try, because they did try with her at a few different points. I think Blair Davenport was still so new to let go of her so soon after she debuted that was criminal. Not a fan. Ahmed said, backtracking here, saying Bearcat Keith Lee pretty much was like Tony the Tiger. It was fucking awful. Yeah, that Bearcat thing where he would roar. I'm not going to do it here. I'm not going to do the roar, but the Bearcat roar for Keith Lee was just... YouTube it. It's bad. Richie said, Graham, how does one maintain their composure when introducing yourself to talent, not counting the interviews you've done? How do you curb the nerves of not marking out and just being yourself? It is difficult, honestly. I mean, when you don't, like, not counting the interviews, even just, like, seeing someone, like, I saw LA Knight at the airport when I was leaving SummerSlam, and Alexis had to kind of encourage me to go meet him, because I had not met him in person up to that point. I had interviewed him over the phone and on Zoom and shit, but never had even met him in person, but I always wanted to meet him, and I kind of had to push myself to go do it. Unless it's at an inappropriate time, like, you can't do that. But as long as it's not, like, in the bathroom or they're fucking eating dinner or something, I feel like it's worth a shot to go say hi, because you may never get that opportunity again, and they're usually pretty cool about it. It makes for a nice moment, something you'll never forget, and you just got to be yourself. I mean, I was marking the fuck out when I met specifically William Regal and CM Punk, and with Punk specifically, in my head, I had a whole list of things I wanted to say to him in, like, the 90-second interaction that we had, but it felt like an hour because he took his time with us, he looked us in the eyes, me and Alexis both, took the pictures, signed my belt, all this other sort of shit. The rest of them, like, I'm also marking out to me, but, I try to kind of, you got to compose. It's difficult. It's honestly meeting these people. At the end of the day, they're just people. Like, you have to remember that. But it is difficult to kind of go up to these people that you're big fans of and act like chill. But I feel like they respect that sort of stuff. They know that you're nervous, but the more chill that you are, I think they like that because they're not used to it, and they want to be treated. They want to be treated just like humans too, like they would treat you. You know what I mean? I think they have more, not respect, but I think they like that sort of stuff more. But it's tough. I mean, finding these people and, not finding them, but going up to them and stuff like that. Because I'm also nervous that they might reject the opportunity for a picture. And I'm always saying, like, hey, you don't have to. Like, don't worry about it. Or just to say hi or whatever. But 9 times out of 10, they're very cool. And it's always worth, a shot. Just to say hi or whatever the fuck. And I feel like it's always worth the opportunity just to ask for a picture. And, never make them feel like they have to take a picture or go up to them with the camera already. Like, that's no bullshit. Like, we could do a whole video on that on the side as far as what not to do in meeting like a wrestler or a celebrity or whatever. That shit's fucking weird. Or going up to them already recording and stuff. You've seen those videos, I'm sure, with John Cena, among other people. That's fucking cringy. But, be as respectful and as nice as possible. And almost every single time, they'll either take the picture with you or even more so have a conversation with you. And I think they appreciate that sort of thing. So it is tough, but if you keep your cool to the best of your ability, but even if you can't, I think with wrestlers specifically, it's worth the shot. I can't speak to bigger celebrities. I feel like wrestlers are more down to earth because they aren't on the level of like big time celebrities, but they're famous enough to where they appreciate the interactions usually. Let's see. Dylan said, Vinci and Blair deserve the second chance. Hopefully she bounces back. I agree. Richie said, I think I already read that one. Blair Davenport as well. Backtracking a little bit here. Let's see. Ahmed said, Giovanni Vinci could have been a great contender for that SmackDown mid-card division. I don't know why they dropped the ball on him. What has he done behind the scenes? That's what I want to know. Giovanni Vinci, I don't know whose fucking coffee he pissed in, but he did something to someone. I've heard the Imperium rumors. I've heard all that shit. I don't know if that's true, the whole Tiffany thing, but it's unfortunate. He must have pissed someone off behind the scenes to get the treatment that he did. You cannot convince me otherwise. Something fucking happened. Y said, no, Graham, you got to let the Vinci story play out. So they said, yeah. Listen, I was one of those people. I'm not saying, oh, yeah, he's not buried. I did say, let's see where this goes. Maybe they follow up on it properly. But even I was one of those people that when he first lost to Apollo Crews in like 90 seconds, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? It wasn't even 90 seconds. It was like 10 seconds, remember? He got like pinned immediately by Vinci, or by Crews, did Vinci. And I'm thinking maybe that allows him to adopt a more aggressive streak, but it's ass-backwards booking. Why would you have him lose to a loser in Apollo Crews if you're just going to build him back up? Sure enough, we didn't even get that far. They didn't even bother to build him back up. They immediately buried him right after that. It didn't even matter. But yeah, it sucks. Hopefully he can bounce back elsewhere because I think Giovanni Vinci is great. He's got a presence about him. He's good in the ring. Big Giovanni Vinci fan. A shame they didn't give him more of an opportunity. But again, we don't know exactly, what went on behind the scenes there as far as what he did, what he did not do. It's probably a petty bullshit thing, but they may have had a reason to bury him. We just don't know. We don't even know any side of the story. I was going to say we know one side of the story. We don't even know that side of the story as being true, so we're just not sure. Nick is here. He said, hello, good sir. Nick, great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope to see you in person soon. Great to see you here in the chat, though. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Freak like Najit. I think I mispronounced it. I apologize. But great to see you back here. I know you've been in the chat before. He said, howdy, Graham. Hope I'm not too late. You're not too late. We are going to be winding down, not in too much longer until we wind down here, but great to see you while you're here. But anyway, hope you're doing well. Richie said, PFC, rip PF Chang's. PF Chang's is great. I said this on a stream a little while ago, but I went to my first PF Chang's. I had my first PF Chang's experience with Nick, his wife, Alexis. We all went together, and it was great. And PF Chang's, I will definitely be back. Nick, I agree. Chop Chop, let's meet soon, damn it. Nick, I'm having fucking withdrawals of not seeing you, so we'll have to meet up soon for sure. They missed you at the I know Dylan's still here in the chat. They missed you at the Royal Rumble party they had over Rumble weekend, but we will definitely have to see you soon for sure. Emmanuel said, speaking of nicknames, do you remember when Kofi Kingston got called the Wildcat in 2012? I do remember that. I remember using that in articles because WWE was calling him that. It was very short-lived, though. I would not have remembered it unless you brought it up. But yes, I do remember when they were calling him the Wildcat in 2012. It was very short-lived. It did not stick. Freak says, like that one person who took a selfie of Randy Orton while using the urinate while he was urinating, LOL. Yes, I do remember that. I remember that whole dilemma. It was just, that's first of all disgusting. Second of all, yes, Randy Orton specifically years ago was fucking awful with fan interactions in public. I think he's cooler about it now, but he's the first person to be like, yo, bro, don't be fucking disrespectful and take a picture of me while I'm with my family. Pissing, all that shit is just fucking weird. So Orton will call you out on your shit. He's also done that with people in the gym too, and people will be like, oh yeah, he was an asshole. Well, it's like, maybe you shouldn't have fucking bothered him. Dylan said, speaking of Randy, I would mark out if I met Randy Orton or get sidetracked talking about Elden Ring, LOL. Yeah, no, that would be... Randy, I feel like even at this point, when I interviewed him about a year ago for his A&E documentary, he was awesome. He was one of the nicest guys I've ever interviewed. So to meet him in person would be cool for sure. More so now than years ago when he was more closed off and not as personable, let's say. Richie said, Giovanni Vinci will finish the story. The Rock saw the tweets, and I think he'll make WWE pivot. Yeah, there's the pivot. You know, Rock, you're in charge. Now you got to see to the board. Let's pivot and get Giovanni Vinci back in the company and push the guy. He'll be back and be the one to dethrone Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Just watch. Ahmed said Triple H is not perfect, as some were saying he is. Got to call him out. Of course, I call him out whenever he does dumb shit. I've called him out for other shit on this stream so far, even today. When I see something dumb, I'll say it's fucking dumb. Triple H, Tony Khan, doesn't matter who the company, what the company is, who the person booking is. I call it like I see it. Richie said, very good advice. I'll try to remember that if I ever come across any talent. I mean, Richie, Richie, I don't have to tell you any advice. I mean, Richie is one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's obviously, very personable as well, social guy. You talked to Jinder in the elevator for 10 minutes, as you were saying a couple of weeks ago. Richie, you do not need any pointers, I'm sure. I know it's hard not to mark out, but I mean, we're in the exact same boat. So, yeah, I mean, you hardly need any advice because I'm sure you would approach it like a normal human being. There's a lot of wrestling fans I cannot say that for, though. There's a lot of fucking fans that would be very weird about the whole thing and try to bother them and all this other shit. I can't say I'm too surprised. All right, I just had to check something real quick. But, yeah, Richie, you don't need to deal with that because there's a lot of wrestling fans that lack social skills. I think a lot of us in this chat can attest to that. You are not one of them. Alexis saying she has been here, by the way. She's just super busy at work. Thank you for joining us, Alexis. Hope you're doing well. Love you, obviously. And thank you for joining us in the chat. And she's obviously listening in, but not chatting in, which is totally fine. Richie said, I had the opportunity last year at the hotel during Mania Weekend to meet Ilya Dragunov. I locked eyes with him, and he gave me a smile. I was walking towards him, but I got cut off by some dumb, sweaty mark holding their phone, and Ilya walked away after that. There you go. Those are the people I'm talking about. Honestly, though, Ilya would fucking intimidate me to meet. I feel like he's very intimidating. Probably a nice guy. I would be scared to meet that man. I feel like he would just murder me just by looking at me. If looks could kill. Richie said it himself. He said, hi, Alexis. Like and subscribe. He knows. Listen, Richie knows. Hit that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Billy also said, Karrion Kross seems like a really cool guy. Richie adds on to that and says, Karrion is a cool cat. I've had a few interactions with him on IG and Twitter. Hope to meet the guy one of these days. He was at a Northeast Wrestling show, Richie, about 3 years ago. Alexis and I met him at WrestleCon briefly in 2022, but we met him at an NEW show, like a full-on interaction, to talk to him for like a minute or so. At an NEW show 3 years ago, couldn't have been nicer. And I've also had a couple interactions with him on Twitter. He follows me, and just like public interactions, like DM stuff, but like very fucking nice guy. Karrion Kross is great. You wouldn't know that by watching the shows. He's great at what he does, but he never gives off nice guy energy watching the shows. Very, very nice guy. So definitely meet him if you can. Let's see. Billy says, yeah, Richie. He always likes tweets, and I would like to meet him too. Interesting comments from Russo over WWE not using him because he's smarter than them. I guess. I don't really listen to anything Vince Russo has to say, but Karrion Kross is a hell of a talent. They should utilize him more. But I think what he's been doing the last couple of months has been very interesting, though. It catches my attention for sure. I think this is the best use of Karrion Kross so far in his most recent run in WWE since the NXT days 5 years ago. John says, heck, I'll give you an example of an interaction I had with a wrestler, Thunder Rosa. Was that an indie show in October 2018 and made me as part of her entrance, which was quite a shock, but she was cool. I remember that, John. You were dancing with Thunder Rosa, I believe, while she was making her entrance. It is on video. It's on YouTube somewhere. I'm not going to point it out, but I remember the show that you're talking about. Thunder Rosa seems very nice. I agree. It said, thoughts on Raw last night? I thought it was another great show. I thought Raw was very enjoyable, much better than SmackDown. It's like night and fucking day. SmackDown is so missable. It feels like they're forcing shit onto that show with Raw. And it's the same people booking this stuff, which doesn't make any sense. Raw, they got good storylines, great action last night, meaningful matches with the Chamber qualifiers, great storyline progression, advertising shit for next week. Shorter runtime, 2.5 hours. I'm really loving Raw. It's been a great show since they moved to Netflix. They've been doing a great job of, utilizing, the time that they have and making stuff feel more meaningful and making those 2.5 hours worthwhile. Richie also said, I missed that NEW show, hoping Cross has a tour for his upcoming book. Maybe I can meet him then. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And Richie said, and I will go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade this year and hopefully meet Damian Priest or Zelina. Yeah, they were at the... weren't you there? Were you there last year, Richie? I know you went to the parade maybe 2 years ago, but I know Damian and Zelina were there last year. Maybe you were there last year and you missed them, but I know you were there at one point and they were there at 1 year as well. Damian's very cool. Zelina is very nice. I actually became a fan of Zelina Vega when I met her in person. I didn't really care about her beyond that, like when she first came back to the company in 2020. She wasn't really doing much at that point, or 2021, whenever it was. But honestly, after I met her and realized how nice she is, I actually became a fan of her after that. Ahmed says Triple H just does not like booking SmackDown for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. Just point it to someone else, I guess. I don't get it. SmackDown is just such a drastically different show than what Raw is and Mondays. It's crazy. Billy says, Graham, is there a wrestler who has been rude to you? I know your line of work. You may have to be careful on this answer, but there's got to be a few. No, I would be, I can give you an honest answer. Honestly, like Alexis and I were talking about this recently. Yeah, Ahmed, you can absolutely tell what shows he cares about the most. Absolutely. Of the two shows. And Richie also said, I'm still yet to go. I'm a fake Puerto Rican LMAO. I thought you were there, Richie. Maybe not. Maybe I just saw you tweeting about it 1 year, but I thought you had gone. I guess not. But yeah, hopefully you can go and you can meet them because they're great. As far as rude wrestlers, I've answered this question before. I've told the whole story about Matt Taven. He's overall been a nice guy. My last interaction with him was not pleasant because I think he may have seen something. Yeah, Alexis said Matt Taven in the chat. He's cool. I honestly don't even hold it against him personally. Long story short, I think I wrote something about Ring of Honor during his time as champion. And his time as champion was fine, but Ring of Honor at that point, when he was on top, was just fucking awful. The business was in the toilet. No real coincidence they closed down a couple years after that. This was right after the Elite left in 2018. And me and my homies hate Matt Taven, she said. So here's the thing. I interviewed him for the first time a long, long time ago. One of the first wrestlers I ever interviewed in 2012. I will not tell you the full story here, but I met him a long time ago, and I've met him a lot since then, and he knows who I am. But then, and every time I saw him in person, he was always cool. But then I interviewed him over Zoom a number of years ago, and he was kind of like weird. Like he felt standoffish. And during the interview, I think he was in character. And he was like, oh yeah, people like you telling me that you don't believe in me. And I'm like, is this taking a personal shot at me? Because like your time as champion was not good. Like fucking what's his name? Marty Scurll was a pedophile or something. Not a pedophile. I shouldn't say that, but I'll get to Alexis's comments in a second. Marty Scurll had his issues, so I'm not saying that he should have. In retrospect, it was probably for the best he didn't win that Ring of Honor World Championship. He was talking to minors or something years ago. But like, he was the right choice to win that championship at the time. He was the most over, but they gave the belt to Matt Taven instead, which I was happy for. When he won the belt, we were there. I was super stoked for him. But the brand when he was champion was just not good. And I don't know if he saw that article. I don't want to sound like I'm just warped up in my own shit, because I honestly don't even think he knows what I'm talking about. We never ended up like seeing each other after that. I have not talked to him since then. And I've kind of debated, like, do I go up to him and say hi and see how he reacts? Because he was cool before that interview. Very fucking weird. Like, even now, like in the past, he would interact with me on social media, but he hasn't in many years. Just a very weird guy. I don't know. I think I may have said something that pissed him off or something. It must have been me criticizing his run as world champion, which I doubt. But again, if he even is aware of that. But again, we're talking about Matt Taven here. We're not talking about John Cena. Like, at the end of the day, who gives a shit? But the top takeaway is a lot of wrestlers have thin skin. Let's put it that way. A lot of the shit that you criticize is out of their control. I never criticized him personally. I think he's a great talent. The booking, Bubba Ray's booking, like you said, John Ritland, killed the Ring of Honor there for a while in late 2019, 2020, before they came back from the pandemic, and then they died again before AEW bought them. It's not really their fault. It's usually the booking's fault, but they take it personally. So Matt Taven was weird, but for the most part, like Alexis mentioned, Goldberg, Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks was kind of fucking weird. Both times they interviewed her, she was in character. She's just an annoying person to interview because she's constantly in character, talking about herself. And not even in the same way that like MJF does. MJF will bury you. He seems like a dick, but like it's at least entertaining. Sasha, when she does it, it's not entertaining. It's just annoying. So Sasha, I've never really been fond of, like, in my personal interactions with her. Maybe she's a sweetheart in real life, I don't know. And Goldberg, I'm a fan of now because I've since interviewed him a couple different times. The first time I interviewed him, he, like, I won't tell the full story here because I got to get going here in a minute, but when I interviewed him the first time, he called me from a block number, which is normal because they don't want to give you their actual number, and for an interview that we had set up. And before he even says hello, he's like, is this, like, I say hello, and he goes, hey, I'm looking for a Graham. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And before I could even speak, he goes, no TNA questions, you hear me? And I was going to ask him a TNA question, but I said, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I won't ask you anything about TNA, because this was around the time where there were rumors that he might go to TNA. This was like 2015, 2016, late 2015. And it was like, I was so fucking nervous. My heart was beating out of my chest. I still have the audio of that, by the way. The interview is here on the channel, but the unedited version where he says that, I still have that on my computer. But it scared the fuck out of me. He was so intimidating. But the more we spoke, he was cool, and I've interviewed him other times since then. He's always been nice. But that first one, he intimidated the fuck out of me for no reason. Like, he felt like a dick. He felt like he came on too strong for absolutely no reason. And I'm sure there's other people that have been dicks. Like, I don't know. Sometimes you catch them on a bad day, too. You interview them on a bad day. It happens. But those are the ones that come to mind. For the most part, I've had great experiences with most wrestlers I've interacted with. Either they're just fine or they're normal, but a lot of them go out of their way to be nice or say something nice or remember you. Those are the people I really like the most. And I could do a whole other video on that at some other point. John said, many wrestlers will be thankful for the interactions with the fans over the years. You know who wouldn't be thankful? Bill Goldberg. Bret Hart, presumably. Yes, John, that is accurate. Let's see. Looking at the chat here. Richie also does not like Sasha. He said, Sasha Mercedes can go kick rocks. And Freak said, it feels like Sasha really believes her hype is a shoe. That is always the impression that I've gotten. That she loves the smell of her own farts. That is always the vibe I've gotten from Sasha. But I've also, like, my brother worked on a movie with her that was fucking awful, by the way. And he will even admit that it was terrible. It was the one movie that she did post-WWE. Fucking sucked. And he had said that she was really nice to work with, and she was really nice, and she was respectful, and he worked closely with her because he was a costume designer in that movie, so he spoke with her a lot, and she seemed nice from what he said. I kind of refuse to believe that because I want to believe that she's a bitch. I'm just kidding. But, you know, that's just what he said. So I feel like she is nice. Yeah, I used the farts analogy. I feel like she is nice, but as a character, she's just a fucking bitch. On TV, I get it, but like when you interview her, do you really have to be in character every fucking time? So weird. Ahmed said, I felt sorry for the Gorilla Position podcast. He interviewed Sasha, and it was annoying to watch Sasha in character most of the interview. This was back in 2020 during COVID. Dude, it was the same time frame. I talked to her in 2020 and again in 2021. Both times, she was in character. Ariel Helwani had the same issue. He goes, what's your favorite Survivor Series match? And she goes, it's going to be me versus Asuka. Or no. It's going to be me versus Asuka from last year's Survivor Series. That's my favorite Survivor Series match. He goes, well, beyond your own stuff, what's your favorite Survivor Series match in WWE history? And she goes, well, I only ever watch my own stuff, so it's me and Asuka. And I'm like, dude, these answers are awful. Like, the point of having interviews is to make them eventful, to make them newsworthy. It was not newsworthy. She gives awful answers to stuff sometimes. I don't know how many interviews she does now. Alexis, yes, we can do story times, but not today. And Richie said, huge pop on my desk at work. I'm glad I could pop you. Alexis said she told John that she would give it 0 stars if he had watched. Yes, he would give the movie 0 stars. It was fucking awful. And Freak said, I remember that interview, Ahmed. I'm going to have to go back and watch it. I've seen Ariel's interview with Sasha. That wasn't good because of her. I don't know if I've seen the gorilla position one. My interview with her was also fine, but like the PR guy literally called me before I talked to Sasha and was like, hey, you're usually good with the talent, but just a heads up, she can be a little much. So just like be careful. He didn't say that she'd be in character, but he was just like, hey, just a heads up, like he didn't say that she was a bitch, but he kind of implied that this guy doesn't work there anymore. And they have never done that to me since, and they have not done that. They had not done it before then. Informing me ahead of time, hey, be careful. This talent isn't always like great with interviews. So she's not great with the interviewers. So just be careful. John said, I'll throw one movie themed piece in. I don't think the new Captain America will be widely successful. Also, I'm hoping there are some proper winners rather at the Oscars. I hope so. I hope the new Captain America movie is good, but we'll see. Daniel said, remember that Raw talk or maybe SmackDown where she started burying Alexa Bliss when they were both supposed to be baby faces? I don't remember that, but that is not surprising. I probably do. I probably would remember it if I watched it, but it doesn't come to mind off the top of my head. Richie said, are you and Alexis going to Vengeance Day this weekend in D.C.? I will not be there, but I did see today that they're doing the NXT Roadblock show at Madison Square Garden on March 11th. At the theater at MSG specifically, not the actual MSG arena. I saw that they're doing NXT Roadblock there on a Tuesday in a month, actually a month from today. I might be interested in going to that, but the Vengeance Day show, we will not be there to see Obafemi versus Waller versus Theory. Unfortunately, oh darn. But if you go, Richie, let me know how it is. Yes, the PR guy did tell me that. And Alexa said, nope, holding out for Mania. Yeah, Freak also said, that's hilarious that you got a warning like that from a PR guy, just hiccuped. Yeah, that's what the guy, he called me ahead of time. He will call me for the interview, but he called me even 10 minutes before it started. I'm like, what is this about? And I pick up the phone, and I'm like, and he goes, hey, yeah, just a heads up. Like, she can tread carefully with Sasha. And the interview ended up being fine, but she was kind of a bitch the second time we talked, a year later, because I thought she was in The Mandalorian Season 3, which she was, but I thought it was announced. It was only ever reported, but it wasn't announced. It was a mess. And she's like, thank you for putting that out there, but I'm not actually in The Mandalorian Season 3. Thank you, but thanks for putting it out there. I'm like, okay, like, sorry, I didn't know it was a big top secret. I thought it was announced. That's my bad. Don't have to be a fucking bitch, but it's okay. Richie said, I was considering going to Mania, but those tickets are expensive. I'm banking on that Slim Jim contest now, LMAO. Yeah, I hope you win. Hopefully we can see you in Vegas. That is going to be an expensive time for sure. Freak said, yeah, keep eating those Slim Jims. Freak said, she was like, she didn't know who Matt Hardy was before, this idiot. Did she say that in the interview? Jesus Christ. Freak said, like, dang, did Alexa steal your man, Sasha? I mean, they've had heat for a long time, for a while, dating back to their NXT days. So that doesn't really surprise me. Richie said, NXT at MSG, oh shit, we out. Yeah, it's in a month. They announced it this morning. March 11th, the theater at MSG, not MSG itself, but it is part of MSG. It's going to be an NXT TV show, one of the live specials, but on a Tuesday night. Roadblock, they're bringing it back for that, so keep an eye out for that. Emmanuel A. said, I think MJF also does interviews in character, although his style seems more open than Sasha. He is more open than Sasha. I've never interviewed him, and he is more entertaining than Sasha times 10. Sasha's interviews are not entertaining at all. MJF, at least, when he does bury the interviewer and shit like that, he's also in character. At least it's fun, and most of the time it's entertaining. The Sasha ones are just unwatchable, I'm sorry. John said the Mercedes puppet cuts a better promo than Mercedes herself. That is not wrong. No lies detected. What's the Sasha Alexa heat? I think it stemmed from something in NXT that carried over to the main roster. I don't know if they still have heat now. They're not in the same company, but you can Google it and see. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but I think it dated back to their NXT time where I think it was a botch during a match and Sasha got upset at her. I don't know. It was something like that, but it carried over to the main roster, and it kind of felt like they still had heat when they were feuding in 2018. Last two questions here. We'll end with this before I got to get going. Non-wrestling related, also from John. I'm curious if you've seen the trailer for the new movie, The Monkey, the horror movie, The Monkey. And if so, will you be seeing it? Side note, I'm at 27 movies for 2025 so far. I have seen the hype for that movie. Haven't seen the trailer. Might have to watch it. I'm not sure if, I'll end up watching that movie. But if it's good, usually John Ritland will give me the endorsement and I'll be like, okay, that's a good movie. I'll watch that. If it's not good, I mean, there's a lot of movies that John does not like that I watch anyway, but The Monkey, it's a horror movie. I probably won't see it, but if it's a great movie, then I might watch it. But it depends on what John says and other people say. At Boss Antelope 86, last question here from the scheduled questions. With the Chamber coming up in a couple of weeks, what are top 5 best and worst Chamber matches? A lot of different ones. I love the SmackDown one from, let's see. Yes, Alexis, I did get the... I got the text about the chair too. I got the exact same text that you did. The chair will be there between 10:30 and 1:30. I'm aware, trust me. I got the same text that you did. But anyway, and yes, MJF does say Chris Van Vla that way. It is funny. Best Chamber matches, the SmackDown one in 2011 was great. The 2014 one was overall good. The initial one is still the best. Last year's were good. The men's and women's ones were good last year. 2022, the women's one was probably the best women's one they ever did. It was the one in Saudi Arabia. I thought that one was great. Worst ones, the one that Brock won was a fucking mess in 2022. That was just awful. That whole finish sucked. The tag team one they did in 2015 wasn't good. And I think they also did the IC title match that one year as well. That one also sucked. The 2017 SmackDown Chamber might be one of the best ones they ever did. At least the finish was. No, the overall Chamber was great. Marios, thank you for joining us as we wind down here. I agree, though, that match was great. Yes, Alexis, we got a movie theater chair, and it's coming tomorrow. We're very excited for it. That's the big news. For worst Chambers, the 03 one at SummerSlam was not good. The one that Triple H won and beat Goldberg, terrible finish. Not one of the better ones at all. A lot of the ones in the 2000s blend together. I love the ones in 08. The Raw and SmackDown ones were good. The ECW ones sucked. The 2023 United States Championship Chamber match was one of the best ones. Absolutely. I forgot about that. I was there for that. Ahmed said that too. One of my favorites. Very underrated. Yes, excellent match. Excellent match. That would also be among my favorites among the best ever. So that's a quick answer for you. Best and worst. But we got to get going here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. And we will be back on Thursday for WrestleRant Radio. So send in questions. Tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Facebook is facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post that we usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. Not in the chat, but rather the comment section. And I'll include your question in next week's edition. So until next time, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you right back here on Thursday morning around 8:30, 8:15 a.m. for a live WrestleRant Radio here on the channel. Till then, guys, I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.